Hey everyone, welcome to the Best Movies channel. In this video, I'm going to introduce an Italian film directed by Nanni Moretti. The Son's Room is a 2001 psychological drama that explores the emotional aftermath faced by a family after the sudden death of their teenage son. Set in the coastal city of Ancona, the film stars Nanni Moretti himself, alongside Laura Morante and Jasmine Trinca. It's a deeply personal and moving story that won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. Stay with me as we dive into this powerful film. The Son's Room is a heartfelt masterpiece by Italian filmmaker Nanni Moretti, who not only directed the film but also stars as its main character. This 99-minute movie, a powerful and emotional story, is one of the most celebrated works in Italian cinema, and it shined brightly at the Cannes Film Festival, where it won the Palme d'Or, one of the most prestigious awards in the world of film. Critics praise the movie for its emotional depth and subtle storytelling. Many even consider it Moretti's greatest work, placing it alongside the finest films in Italian cinema history. But who is Nanni Moretti? He's a bold, experimental filmmaker who's earned countless awards over the years. Moretti often cites the legendary Iranian director Abbas Kiarostami as one of his biggest inspirations. In fact, The Son's Room is seen by many as a tribute to Kiarostami's classic, Close Up. Moretti has even made a short documentary about the warm reception Close Up received in Venice, Italy, titled The Opening Day of Close Up. Interestingly, Moretti isn't just a filmmaker, he was also a professional water polo player in his youth. His approach to storytelling draws deeply from his own experiences, and he blends personal reflection with cinematic elegance in a way that feels incredibly authentic. His films are often made on modest budgets, but they always manage to strike a chord with audiences, and The Son's Room is no exception. One of his earlier films, Dear Diary, also won Best Director at Cannes. Now, let's talk about the film itself. At the center of The Son's Room is a middle-aged psychologist, intelligent, composed, and rational, played by Moretti himself. He lives a peaceful life with his wife and 2 children. Like many therapists, he listens to others for a living, but struggles to connect emotionally with his own family, especially his son. Throughout the film, we see his interactions with different patients, each with their own struggles. And while he helps change their perspectives, they also reflect parts of himself, emotions he's buried deep down. Then one day, his son asks if he can go on an outing with friends. The father, caught up with work, asks him to postpone it to the following week. The son agrees. But the next week, tragedy strikes. While diving underwater, the son drowns. From here, the movie takes a powerful turn, one that echoes the emotional impact of films by Michael Haneke, What Dreams May Come, or Asghar Farhadi's The Salesman. A single moment, postponing a simple outing, leads to irreversible heartbreak. Though he tries to stay strong for his family, the father begins to break down. He cries during therapy sessions, closes his practice, and withdraws from life. He simply can't cope. But everything changes when a friend of his late son visits their home to offer condolences. Slowly, the father realizes he didn't know his son as well as he thought. And this time, he genuinely tries to support not just himself, but also his wife and daughter, through the grieving process. And finally, after all the silence, sorrow, and soul-searching, we reach the final scene. A moment of warmth, of release. For the first time in the film, the father laughs. A real, heartfelt laugh. And it's beautiful. Now, let's dive deeper into the artistic layers of this cinematic gem. The Son's Room is a film where form and content are perfectly synchronized, a rare harmony that elevates the entire viewing experience. Most of the scenes unfold either around the family dining table or in the psychologist's office. These confined spaces mirror the closed-off nature of the protagonist's inner world. The home represents a place of unspoken rules, where emotional expression is subdued, and unfiltered feelings are often left unsaid. The office, on the other hand, becomes a mirror for the therapist's own emotional struggles, reflected through his patients. Interestingly, the characters aren't deeply individualized, which allows each of them to symbolically represent different facets of the psychologist's own psyche. At home, the father speaks little and is often irritable. Despite the emotional distance, the family still views him as a pillar of strength, a successful, powerful man whose words aren't questioned. His image commands respect, even when affection is lacking. But it's in the therapy room where most of the dialogue happens. Here, these introverted, quietly suffering individuals open up and reveal their true selves. In many ways, this space becomes a kind of sanctuary for the introverted, all of whom look to the protagonist as a figure of wisdom and strength. Yet what they don't realize is that this so-called hero is deeply passive. He, too, yearns for someone to confide in, for someone to listen. Gradually, his internal layers are peeled back. The death of his son forces him, despite his resistance, to confront his own emotions, mostly through subtle gestures and silent breakdowns rather than words. There's a striking reversal between the psychologist and his patients. Their view of life and their coping mechanisms often stand in stark contrast. Take, for instance, one of his patients who suffers from obsessive-compulsive tendencies. The therapist's internal voice mocks this patient, finding his need for control and perfection ridiculous. Yet later in the film, the same patient finds healing and peace, while the therapist becomes increasingly fixated on trivial household details, like a cracked teapot. This pattern repeats. Another patient struggles deeply with the idea of continuing to live, feelings the therapist inwardly dismisses. But as the story progresses, that same patient, even after learning she has terminal cancer, comes to embrace life. Meanwhile, our protagonist sinks deeper into nihilism, overwhelmed by grief and existential fatigue after his son's passing. This contrast highlights one of the film's key themes: the necessity of accepting life, with all its pain and unpredictability. In the beginning, the father struggles with his son's behavior at school. But after meeting his son's friends, and seeing a version of his son he never truly knew, he comes to terms with how little he understood, and how much he needs to change. Moretti tries to get as close as possible to every character. At least once, we see each of them either crying, shouting, or expressing deep dissatisfaction with their reality. After showing us how each character feels in isolation, Moretti brings them face to face with the therapist, pairing them up in a kind of emotional confrontation. Beyond the storytelling, The Son's Room succeeds on many cinematic levels. The dialogue is beautifully crafted, making the audience feel emotionally in sync with the main character. And the use of inner voice, heard in crucial moments, allows the filmmaker to communicate psychological depth without needing to explain it outright. The direction is simple yet intentional, with limited camera angles and a minimalist visual style that mirrors the characters' perspectives. Moretti's talent for matching form with theme reaches its peak in the film's final moments. As the boys' friends, the last physical ties to their lost son, board a bus and leave, the camera lingers, then lets them go. The setting is bathed in the soft light of dawn. The body language, the faint smiles, the colors of the morning, all signal a quiet hope. A better future. Not in grand gestures, but in small, sincere moments. In the end, this story, like the best of three-act dramas, finds its resolution not in the plot, but in the hearts of its characters. The film continues in the mind of the viewer, long after the credits roll. Much like Abbas Kiarostami's life, and nothing more. The Son's Room can be summed up in one powerful truth. Life goes on. It must go on. And finally, I hope you will see this movie completely, and enjoy watching it. I would be happy if you could comment your opinion about this movie.